Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I get junk email like you wouldn't believe. I get so much garbage in my inbox every single day. And I delete tons and tons and tons of it. And I've got spam filters set up to catch a lot of it. And despite that, it's a never-ending battle. But I will admit that sometimes I'm amused by the emails I get. And I got one yesterday that I think that you'll enjoy hearing about because you've encountered a portion of this situation. Don't know what else to call it, but this is a real email I got yesterday dated May 1st, 2023 at 7:51 p.m. Sent to me by a gentleman whose name I will not say, from a company whose name I will not mention, and it says, Law Office of Steve Lehto. That's their address to me. I hope this finds you well. In an effort to bring tangible results to our clients, I'm reaching out with an upfront solution to your mass tort acquisition by offering vetted, signed retainer leads. Now, you're going to say, Steve, I didn't quite catch that. Could you go over that again? Well, neither did I, because I don't do this kind of law. But I've mentioned recently, on a couple different occasions, the concept of a tort. A tort is a private wrong for which you can seek remedy by suing somebody. Negligence is an example. And so mass torts are where a lot of people got injured by the same thing, and they can either band together and go after somebody, or somebody can just start bringing cases on behalf of all these people because they know there's a lot of them out there. And so situations where a lot of people are affected by something, there have been a bunch of them, but quite often it's poisonings or where chemicals have been released, that kind of thing. But it says here, in an effort to bring tangible results to our clients, he's referring to his clients, not mine, his. I'm reaching out with an upfront solution to your mass tort acquisition by offering vetted, signed retainer leads. So he's saying that he can get me mass torts clients who are victims of mass torts, and obviously I'm looking for them all day long, right? Except I don't do mass tort litigation. But I know people who do, but I don't. The prices below, prices. The money thing. The prices below are what we are currently offering to new clients as an introductory special to our services and 5-star customer service. Now, here he's not talking about the clients he's signed up. He's talking about now me becoming his client and me paying him to send over these vetted, signed retainer leads. Okay? So he's saying if you pay us, me, if I pay him, he'll then send me clients who have been vetted and have signed a retainer agreement of some sort, which raises some big issues, but we'll get there in a second. So it says, for instance, Camp Lejeune. If you've seen the ads on TV, if you watch TV at night, there's always ads, did you serve at Camp Lejeune? And they talk about different things. Did you do this? Did you do that? How long were you there? I don't know what these things mean, except it says Tier 1, $3,200. Tier 2, $2,500. Tier 3, $2,000. So apparently I can call him up right now and go, I want one Tier 1 Camp Lejeune signed, vetted retainer lead. And the gal sent me the name and address and contact information for somebody, theoretically, who has a claim against Camp Lejeune, apparently. And another example is Roundup. There's that weed killer called Roundup. And there's been some famous cases about people who used Roundup, especially if they did it in an industrial setting, like they were a professional groundskeeper or something, and they were exposed to Roundup and they developed all kinds of diseases and illnesses from that. Well, the Roundup, apparently they can get me an introductory vetted client for $3,000 per client. So I'd pay them $3,000 and then they would send me the information about a client. Talc, which they note is very popular with its recent bankruptcy denial, $3,000. Firefighter foam. So if I want to take on the firefighter foam industry on behalf of somebody who's been vetted and signed, I pay $2,200 and they'll send over a lead. Now, of course, if I want 10 leads, it's $22,000. And if I want 100 leads, well, I could do the math when I'm a busy man. Now, it also says I can get involved in the hair straightener situation for $1,200 per lead. And I thought, wow, hair straightener. I'd not heard about that. Well, it does say, and I Googled this, that there have been lawsuits involving people who claim they were sickened by hair relaxer or chemically straightened hair through certain kinds of hair straightener. and it causes various forms of cancer. So they'll sell me those leads for $1,200 a piece. And then finally, paraquat, which I had not heard of paraquat in quite some time. There was, back in the 70s, some issues with paraquat in Central and South America I won't go into right now. But paraquat is another type of weed killer. And apparently there are people who have been exposed to it who've developed Parkinson's. And so there appears to be some kind of connection between paraquat and Parkinson's. And so if I want paraquat leads with vetted, signed retainers, they'll sell those to me for $4,000 a piece. And it says, specific case criteria may influence price. We currently have leads for other mass tort claims as well. Reply here or call me directly to discuss this further. And there's a name of a person, a name of a company, and then a phone number. And the problem I have with this, and I'm going to go through this a little bit, is I've seen the ads on TV. I've seen the ads on TV. Were you ever stationed at Camp Lejeune? Did you get cancer after using talc? Did you ever use Roundup? And a lot of these cases have been subject to class actions. So obviously, if somebody went through a class action, if they're a member of the class and collected, they can't do this. But if they opted out, for instance, they could, as long as the statute of limitations hasn't run. But the real question I have is the person signing up these people an attorney? That actually matters. Because in law, it's considered to be extremely, what should I call it? Extremely untasteful to buy leads like this, where you actually go to somebody and go, I'll pay you for every person you can bring me that I represent. And I've heard of it happening before, and I've also heard of attorneys getting in trouble for that. And so it depends on what state you're in and exactly to what extent you go to. And one of the biggest issues, though, is whether or not the person signing these people up is an attorney. Because if and again, that small print at the bottom of the TV screen, you can pause it, and then it's almost impossible to read, but there is small print there. It'll often say, this law firm that's on the screen is not licensed in all 50 states. They're only licensed in this state, this state, and this state. And so therefore, you may have to talk to somebody else in another state, but we'll send you to those people. And I'm not sure if that's what's going on here. Because the question I have is, it says that we are offering vetted, signed retainer leads, that people have signed retainers. And a retainer agreement is what you think it is. So if you were to come into my office and hire me, I would offer you a retainer agreement that describes our relationship and what I'm going to do for you and what I'm going to charge you. Okay, that's a retainer agreement. It'll also say how much work I'm going to do and what I'm going to work on. And so, for instance, my retainer agreement might say this will cover us through trial, but will not cover an appeal. We'll have to revisit that if we get to that point. That kind of thing. So, if somebody tells me that they've got somebody signed up to a retainer agreement and they want to pass that person over to me, my first question is, 1, are you an attorney? 2, in what state are you an attorney? And 3, what's that retainer agreement say? Because presumably, if you're going to give these clients over to me and they've signed, vetted, and done all this stuff, these people, and there's a retainer involved, I need to know what the retainer says. Or are you saying that you signed them to a retainer just to get them to me and I'll sign them to another retainer? And then the question I really have is, did you disclose that you're going to charge somebody $3,000, $2,200, $4,000 for the honor of passing them along to another attorney? And I don't know. I've not seen that retainer agreement, and I won't because I'm not going to respond to this guy. But I was a little surprised because it does say results to our clients. And now, at first, I thought he was referring to me the entire time, but I realized no. He's talking first about the clients that they've signed up, and then talking about me as a client that I could become, okay? So, again, they would have to be an attorney to have a legal client. And if they aren't attorneys, then the best they can do is say, well, we are people who will help you find an attorney. So that's one issue I've got. The next question I have is, it says they've been vetted. They've been vetted. Who is doing the vetting process? Because the vetting process is meaningless to me unless it's done by an attorney or a highly trained person, like a paralegal. I've had paralegals before that I trained them and said, here's everything I want you to look at. if you review a file before I see it, I still look at the file. I would never let someone on my behalf sign someone to a retainer agreement where I would agree to represent them without having vetted them myself. But the question is, who's doing the vetting? Is it being done by an attorney? And if so, in what state? The question is, did you have somebody in Michigan vet these clients? Because that might be important. I also have a question about statute of limitations, because it says here, I'm reaching out with an upfront solution to your mass tort acquisition by offering vetted, signed retainer agreements. Do they already have these people signed up? And if so, what's being done in their cases right now? Are they really waiting for someone like me to respond to them? Because when you sign up with somebody and you say, I want someone to handle my case, and you think your case can be handled legally by an attorney and so on, you want them to get to work promptly on it. And so the idea that somebody would sign up for a case and then their paper would be put over there and go, okay, let's see if we can find that guy an attorney now. I've had people contact me and say, Steve, I've got someone here who needs an attorney. And they tell me a story, and I realize that they've actually waited a month or two before contacting me. And it's like, I don't want to get involved now, because that person's probably already upset. And that's how many people are. They're like, I went all these years with this pain and suffering and situations with these mass toxic torts, and next I hear I signed up with somebody, nothing happened for a month or 2 months. And so I am very, very curious about that, but also the statute of limitations. And anytime you're talking to a potential client, you have to explain to them the statute of limitations. So I've had a client come into my office before, sit down and say, Steve, I've got a defective car. And they start showing me all these documents, and they tell me the story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. And I look at the purchase agreement, and the purchase agreement was dated 4 years ago tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 4-year anniversary. And there are some causes of action in Michigan that are 4 years. And so now in my mind, the clock starts ticking, and I realize that if I take this case, I'm going to have to file it and serve it by tomorrow. Okay? And I actually had a case like that. And I remember sitting in court one day with my opponent, very, very good friend of mine, but he's an attorney who defended that car company for many, many years. And he had the file in front of him, and I see him do this, and the judge was on the bench, so all we could do is whisper. And he starts tapping on something. And he goes, look. And I look, and he's tapping on the purchase date. And I go, yeah, so what? And he flips over to the summons date, and he taps on that. And he goes, you just beat the statute by 1 day. And I go, I know. Who do you think served it? He goes, did you really? So afterwards, we were out in the hallway. And I said, yeah, my client came in. It was a good case. I took the case, obviously. And then I said, but you understand the statute of limitations actually runs tomorrow? And so I called up my process server. I drafted the complaint. I ran downtown, filed it by hand, got the signed copies, brought it back to my office. And then he ran and served the dealership, and I ran and served the manufacturer. Literally walked in the front door of their world headquarters and said, I've got documents to serve on. And they actually had a person there that I could serve them on, and they accepted service, signed the form. My client went to the dealership, found the principal, served it on him, came back, and I filed those with the court. And the funny part is that a lot of defense attorneys, as a matter of just routine, will look at these various dates to see if the statute of limitations was an issue that somebody missed. And he just realizes, like, oh, that's just 1 day you had there. And I'm like, yeah, that's a close one. But I've also had people come to my office, and they'd blown the statute of limitations. They didn't know it. And so that's why they always tell you, if you think you have a case, start making some phone calls just in case. But so I don't know, because I do know that some of these things, there might be statutes. I don't know off the top of my head what the statute is on a roundup claim. I don't know. But my concern is that if somebody signed them up and now is out shopping around trying to find attorneys who'll take these cases for a mere $3,000 or $4,000 a pop, I'd worry about that as well, statute of limitations. And so I found this rather unseemly. And so I'm obviously not going to respond to it. But also, I don't handle mass tort cases. But I've seen the ads on TV. And I suspect that this is all part of that, so that they think, well, we'll get the cases and then we'll sell them off to other attorneys. And in some states, it's a little clearer than in other states. But the selling of cases and clients is often frowned upon also by state bar organizations. So it's something I wouldn't get near, even if these were good cases. If somebody said, Steve, I can get you lemon law cases all day long. All you got to do is pay me $100 a piece for them. I'd say, great, sell them to my competitor. I don't want them. It's not how I do business. So there you go. That's the email I got yesterday. But it says, I hope this finds you well. In an effort to bring tangible results to our clients, I'm reaching out with an upfront solution to your mass tort acquisition by offering vetted, signed retainer leads, some of which cost $4,000 a piece. And I could have called and gotten some more information about that, but I chose not to do so. I thought this would be more entertaining. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. It ain't what they call you, it's what you answer to.